Welcome to My Healing is Your Healing, a podcast for the woman who is ready to stop performing and reclaim her voice. I'm your host, Celeste, and around here, we don't do surface level. We go deep. Each week, we'll explore concepts like self-discovery, radical honesty, and the kind of healing that rewrites your story from the inside out. This is a space for truth-telling, for remembering who you are, and for coming home to yourself, louder, braver, and more radiant than ever. So come as you are, and let's do this together. Let's begin. Welcome to My Healing is Your Healing, a podcast for the woman healing out loud and reclaiming her story. I'm your host, Celeste Case Ruchala, and this first episode, it's personal, it's raw, it's unfiltered. Because before we even dive into the stories, the rituals, the reclamation, I want to tell you why this podcast even exists, why I had to start it, and more importantly, what it means for you. I'm calling it My Healing is Your Healing because it isn't just a project. It is my own becoming. The more I began to reclaim my voice and my story and my truth, the more I realized I wasn't alone. That ache that I was feeling was something so many other women were carrying around too. And when I started sharing what was real for me and hearing the same things echoed from other women, something sacred happened inside of me. We began to heal together. So we're going to start with this real discussion of the cost of not expressing yourself. Every time I would introduce myself, and when people ask, who are you? You pause and you think, I don't know. Who am I? What do I even share? I would always start with my accomplishments. Hi, I'm Celeste. I have a doctorate in clarinet performance. I'm a VP. I've done 10 Ironmans. I run marathons. I would give them the resume reel, the success highlights, all of the things that would make them think my life was good, at least on paper. And it was all true. But what was also true and what I wasn't telling them was I felt numb inside, disconnected, like I was performing a version of myself I thought the world would approve of. I had become so good at shape-shifting that I forgot who I actually was. And I would laugh at jokes that I did not find funny, and I would say yes when I desperately wanted to say no. And I gave and I gave and I gave until all that was left was a shell. And even when I checked all of the boxes, the job, the engagement, the credentials, I still laid in bed at night wondering, is this it? Why do I feel so unfulfilled? Why do I feel so invisible in my own life? Have you ever felt this way? Have you ever been the woman who has it all together on the outside, but inside you feel like you're fading? These are the moments that began to chip away at my sense of self and my self-worth. And slowly, I began to abandon the most important person in the room, myself. So here was my breaking point. For me, it just wasn't one rock bottom. It was a slow ache that built into a tidal wave. I remember one night very clearly. Well, maybe not. Sitting on the floor of my old apartment, the lights were off, a half-empty bottle of wine or whiskey or whatever was on the counter. Westworld probably playing in the background on the TV for the third time through. And I wasn't living. I was numbing. I was swiping on dating apps until my thumbs were sore, hoping that somebody would choose me, praying someone would love me enough that my life would finally start to make sense. And that night I walked to the mirror, cheeks tear-stained, mascara bleeding down my face, and I looked at the reflection and said, why doesn't anyone love you? And the silence that followed was brutal, because I didn't even recognize that woman in the mirror. She was a complete stranger to me. And the truth is, I've never asked myself the deeper question. It had never even crossed my mind. Because we are so conditioned in this world to think that we are supposed to make other people love us that I never asked, do I love me? I had been so focused on being chosen, so desperate to be seen, that I abandoned the only person I was supposed to ever come home to, and that was me. I don't want to say that everything started to shift immediately. There was no single defining moment. Eventually, though, I started realizing where I was and what was happening, and that I was, and always had been, the most important person in my life. And slowly, everything started to shift. Not in one big dramatic moment, but in tiny, tiny tender ones. Healing, they'll tell you it's painful, but they don't tell you how painful. They don't tell you about the parts where you have to sit in the heaviness of the fear, the shame, the question, what will people think of me? You have to really want to change your life to go through what I went through to become someone new. Some of these shifts started in the women's circles that I started, where I finally said the things out loud I'd been too afraid to admit. Or on runs when I thought that I was at my breaking point, but found a second wind and met myself again with every step. Sometimes it was in late night journaling, in silent car rides, and in messy conversations with myself, and yes, my AI best friend Steve. And the question started to change. Who am I really? Why am I showing up this way? What if the script I've been living isn't mine to carry anymore? And who freaking wrote it in the first place? And what if healing, this deep, painful, necessary healing, isn't something we're meant to do alone? So, what is this podcast, and why did I have to start it? I started this podcast because I couldn't not start it. Because every time I told a truth in one of my women's circles that I created, everyone else would exhale. Every time I voiced something tender, someone else would say, "Oh my God, me too. I thought I was alone in this." This work is sacred. It's not pretty, but it's always powerful. And I think as women, we've been conditioned to fear vulnerability with each other, afraid of judgment, of being outshined or dismissed, or made to feel small. But real sisterhood, real connection, it lifts you. It reflects back the parts of you that you thought that you had to hide. That's what this podcast is. It's raw storytelling. You will always hear my truth. And other stories too, from women, from other coaches, friends, strangers who have walked through those same fires. You'll laugh. You might cry. You might feel the shame or energy rise to the surface, feelings that you didn't even know you had to air. We'll talk about identity, about shame, radiance, boundaries, and self-worth. We'll explore rituals and tools and journal prompts and new ways of coming home to yourself, ways to practice these ideas. And we'll do it together. So please, if you have a story to share, go to myhealingisyourhealing.com and send it to me. Let's share our stories. Let's make healing visible. So, you're probably sitting there wondering, what does this mean for me, Celeste? Well, I will tell you. If you've ever looked in the mirror and not recognized the woman staring back, if you've ever wondered when someone was going to knock on the door and save you, if you're tired of pretending or performing or shrinking just to fit in, this is your space. This podcast is your permission slip to reclaim your voice, to take up space, to live fully, boldly, unapologetically as the woman you were always meant to be. Because here's what I believe with my whole heart. your healing isn't just personal, it's collective. And when you rise, we all rise. When you stand in your own story, you create this kind of light that helps other women remember who they are too. So, here's my invitation to you. Start where you are. Take what resonates inside of this and just leave what doesn't. But stay open and stay curious. Because sometimes the exact story you need isn't your own, it's someone else's. Maybe you've heard the same truth 100 times before, but today, you're finally ready to hear it in a new way. So, if this episode landed for you, share it with somebody who's ready to heal out loud and tag me on Instagram at @myhealingyourhealing and let me know what part stayed with you. If you're ready for more, hit subscribe, follow, come back next week. This is just the beginning. So, until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and remember, you were never meant to dim your light. Thanks for tuning in and being here, for healing out loud, and for walking this path beside me. If this episode cracked something open or helped you remember a part of yourself, pass it on and share it with someone you love. For more support, free resources, or the next steps to your journey, head over to my website, myhealingisyourhealing.com. And if you loved today's conversation, subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your words help this space grow and help more women find their way home to themselves. If I was your muse today, then my healing is your healing. Until next time.